and this is a question for each of you. Do you worry about when we have free trade agreements sitting out there like the Colombian and the Panamanian, South Korea, and they're sitting there and nothing's being done, losing that market share? I mean, for instance, and I'll use agriculture as an example. As we sit doing nothing on the Colombian free trade agreement, we've lost about 40% of that market share to Argentina. I mean, they're coming in and they're just scooping it up just as fast as they can get their hands on it because they see an opportunity there. Now, do we lose? What are the chances we're going to lose that market forever? When you have countries that step in and fill that void and do it immediately. That's one of the things I worry about, and that's just an agriculture example. There's examples out there probably for everything, and I'd just like for each of you to comment. I'll start with you, Mr. Greenblatt.
That's a great point. That's a big concern. I mean, right now, Panama is embarking on a huge project, the biggest project since the Three River Gorge project out in Three Gorges Dam out in China, to redo the Panama Canal and rework on the Panama Canal. And there's a lot of wire baskets you need in Panama over the next couple of years to make that. So we want this trade agreement done right away so we could sell wire baskets, sheet metal components into Panama as they go on this massive infrastructure binge. We want to be front and center when that all happens. And if America doesn't sign off on these trade agreements, we're going to be late to the party, and we're going to miss that opportunity. And what that means is less people in America are going to have jobs. And that's it's silly for us to give that up.
Mr. Bond?
Sure. I think that our industry is 100% behind open markets and free trade. We depend upon it. As I said in my testimony, it drives our efficiency, it drives our productivity, drives innovation. So, yeah, we're concerned about markets. We're concerned about supply chains because we're also relying on these countries in many cases for supply chains, and that ultimately adds up to our competitiveness. I'm also happy to be here today because in the meantime, we should also move ahead on trade promotion.
Dr. Huffbauer.
Well, the Obama administration has many priorities, but trade policy is not amongst them. And the U.S. has basically retired from the trade agenda in the last couple of years, and I realize there are other priorities at work. This is like termites in the basement or red ants or whatever you want. I just saw some statistics this morning on, and I didn't bring them today, I can send them along, but on U.S. agricultural sales in Colombia, going down a number of agricultural products, and we're way down. Now, whether that's because of the trade agreement or not, that is not being ratified, I can't say, but the picture is not good. And the Chamber of Commerce's report on the losses from not ratifying the 3 pending trade agreements has been cited. But the big picture ahead is Asia. Asia is, of course, the very rapid growth area of the world, and Asian countries are negotiating amongst themselves and reducing barriers. We're not part of that picture now. So this doubling exports, amongst other things, means that the United States has to get back into the game.
Mr. Johnson?
My expertise is more in the area of agriculture and food, so maybe if I could address it from that perspective. I would say that there's another element of this that we should pay attention to, and that is making sure that trade agreements that we have are enforced. There are a lot of folks in our industry who are really concerned, for example, about even the Chinese market right now, given what you have with the exchange rates being so far out of whack. They basically have a very strong export-centered policy, which makes imports much more expensive. And we need to figure out a way to bring some sort of balance to even those countries where we do have agreements, whether it's through the WTO or through a series of bilaterals or multilaterals, et cetera. The other thing I would say is that, as I indicated in my testimony, I think it's very important for us to have some sort of coherence among all of our foreign policies. We have very well-meaning, very important foreign policy goals of making sure that hungry people are fed, of making sure that very poor countries develop economically. But at the same time, most of these countries begin to develop economically by developing their agriculture. And so we sometimes are working at cross purposes where we want the lowest possible price in terms of in their marketplace for the very food products that they're raising, and we end up hurting their ability to grow economically. So I think it's really important that we get a broader perspective and try to get all of our different foreign policy goals sort of in alignment, if you will.
Well, do you worry about losing those markets
Sure.
permanently?
Sure. We worry about losing markets all over the world for all of the reasons that I mentioned.